The dollar does not collapse with a headline, it erodes in silence, not through panic, through adjustment. For decades, the US dollar has functioned as the backbone of global trade. Oil priced in dollars. Debt issued in dollars. Central bank reserves stored in dollars. It is not merely a currency, it is infrastructure, and infrastructure rarely falls apart overnight, it is bypassed. Reserve currency status is not permanent. It is earned through stability, liquidity, trust, and geopolitical strength. The real question is not whether the dollar is dominant today, it is whether the conditions that created that dominance are shifting. The global financial system runs on dollar clearing networks and U.S. Treasury markets. Nations hold dollars because they are liquid, widely accepted, and backed by the world's largest economy, but the system has evolved. Sanctions have become a powerful tool of foreign policy. Access to dollar networks can be restricted. Reserves can be frozen. Transactions can be blocked. Financial infrastructure now carries political weight, and political weight changes incentives. If holding reserves in dollars introduces geopolitical exposure, nations begin to explore alternatives. Not abandonment, insulation, bilateral trade agreements in local currencies, regional payment systems outside Western clearing channels, growing central bank gold reserves. Individually, these do not dethrone the dollar. Collectively, they signal diversification. This is the dollar's silent pressure point, not a coordinated attack, but incremental hedging. Energy markets have long reinforced dollar dominance. Yet even there, experiments with non-dollar settlements are emerging. Small volumes. Limited scale. But direction matters. Reserve currencies depend on habit. Once habits shift, reversals are difficult. There is another structural factor, debt. The United States carries substantial sovereign obligations. As borrowing costs rise, debt servicing consumes more fiscal space. Confidence in a currency reflects confidence in long-term sustainability. If markets begin to question fiscal discipline, borrowing costs increase. Higher costs intensify fiscal strain. The dollar does not need to collapse to weaken, it only needs marginal confidence to decline. Yet there is a paradox. During global crises, capital still flows into US treasuries. The dollar strengthens when uncertainty rises. This reflects depth, liquidity, and the absence of a fully credible alternative. The euro faces structural fragmentation risks. China's yuan remains constrained by capital controls. Digital currencies lack sovereign backing and scale. Gold offers storage of value, but limited transactional utility, so the dollar persists, not because it is flawless, but because alternatives remain incomplete. This suggests a different outcome. The dollar may not be replaced by a single rival, it may be diluted. A multipolar currency system would not eliminate the dollar. It would gradually reduce its share of global reserves and settlements. Influence, not existence, is the key metric. If more trade is settled regionally, if central banks reduce dollar exposure incrementally, if commodities price in mixed currencies, the cumulative effect becomes meaningful. Power shifts quietly. History offers perspective. Reserve currencies rarely vanish abruptly. The British pound declined over decades as economic gravity shifted elsewhere. The more plausible scenario for the dollar is not dramatic collapse. It is normalization, a world where the dollar remains important but no longer singular. That shift would reshape leverage. Sanctions might lose some potency. US borrowing costs could face upward pressure. Emerging economies might gain greater flexibility in trade negotiations. The phrase doomed implies sudden breakdown, but structural transitions are gradual. The silent threat to the dollar is overextension combined with complacency, assuming dominance is permanent, assuming alternatives cannot mature, assuming confidence is fixed. Currencies rest on trust. Trust rests on governance, transparency, and economic strength. If fiscal discipline strengthens and institutional credibility holds, the dollar's role could remain substantial even in a diversified system. If fragmentation accelerates without adjustment, dilution becomes more likely. The decisive factor is not ideology, it is behavior. Watch how central banks allocate reserves. Watch how trade contracts are denominated. Watch how often policymakers reference diversification. These are subtle indicators. The dollar may not fall with a crash. It may recede through gradual redistribution. and if monetary influence becomes more dispersed, the global order built around dollar centrality will adjust. In trade, in diplomacy, in finance, the future of the dollar will not hinge on a single crisis, it will be shaped by thousands of incremental decisions. So the more precise question is not whether the dollar is doomed, it is whether the world is quietly constructing parallel systems, and whether those systems will reach critical mass. If the foundation shifts slowly, most will not notice, until leverage changes, until borrowing costs adjust, until influence redistributes. The architecture of global finance can evolve without spectacle, but when it does, the consequences are structural, so consider this carefully. Are we witnessing isolated experiments, or the early stages of monetary diversification at scale? And if the center of gravity moves, even gradually, what will remain stable, and what will need to be redefined?